service.
Hey everyone, welcome to Chef Sense. I'm your host, Chef Massey. The sponsor today is BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an online therapy service. They have 30,000 licensed therapists in their network. You know, it's really amazing. And I have enjoyed taking advantage of this opportunity with them myself because, you know, oftentimes the intensity in the kitchen, the challenges in life, I have put myself on the back burner. And, you know, working with BetterHelp, it has supported me in continuing my own self-work, but also putting me back front and center in the game of being an effective leader, partner, and all of the above. So take that questionnaire. Once you do that, you go through that system and they filter those therapists that are fit for your specific needs. They get back to you in most cases within 48 hours or less. You can book those therapy sessions at your leisure that fit your schedule, which is truly amazing. I can say as a chef and, you know, on the go and parent, it makes it very convenient. You know, you could do those via the video chat, the instant message. Go to betterhelp.com/Chef Massey and you get the 10% off first month when you do that. And in that link, the questionnaire is there for you. So join me on sliding to the front burner because we deserve it. Back to the episode. All right, everyone. Today in the studio, we have Nick Martinelli from Marty's Local, the founder. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks, Chef. Thanks for having me.
I was trying to reflect back on, it was like 10 years ago, I want to say, and it was at the Red Lion Inn. It was like a Berkshire Grown meeting.
I remember it.
Okay, and we were at the table,
Yep.
and they went around, and, you know, you had said, Marty's Local, this is, introduce yourself, and this is what I want to do. And when you talked about connecting our region with, you know, farmers and producers, I was like, man, that's it. He has it. You know, this is special. This is going to be something. So, you know, I think that's where the Marty's Local bug bit me, you know, back then. I'm so grateful for you, but also what you provide in your vision and your model to have a real impact on a few regions of the New England area, period, and also the Berkshires. But just want to say thank you. And so can we go into your background and how this started and your thoughts?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for saying all those things. And I appreciate, you know, our working relationship over all these years. And that meeting at Berkshire Grown really was particularly encouraging. I didn't have really a business to speak of. It was more of a concept.
Right.
And some I can't remember exactly the timing, but some partners on the farm side who I had been talking with quite a bit. And the whole idea is that there are so many strong farmers and food producers around here, as you know.
Unbelievable.
And so many of those folks were and are doing their own trucking, doing their own self-distribution.
Yeah.
And that works for some business models. And some other folks are interested in going beyond the radius that they can hit and focusing on production and quality control and the marketing, the distribution, the trucking part of it, the getting the word out and connecting the dots with the buyers. And as you know, from being on the chef side, you sometimes have to make those phone calls a lot in order to break down that door.
Right.
And the theory was that the farmer or the maker shouldn't have to do some of that work.
Right.
And so let's make it a business that focuses on that, but for farmers and makers in our particular region.
Right.
And there wasn't a novel concept. There were a bunch of these sort of food hub type models across the country. I had been at the farm school in 2013-14, which is a year-long program, which is sort of a combination agriculture program, homesteading, vocational program, basically. And got to work as a laborer for a year on a 75-acre farm.
Oh, boy.
And we had animals and grew 12 acres of vegetables. And it was a phenomenal program. And coming out of that, I remember the lead farmer saying toward the end, Nick, sometimes the growing is the easy part, meaning that the selling and the trucking and the rest of it is the hard part.
Sure.
And I was really moved by that whole year there. I had not been in agriculture before that.
Wow.
And wanted to, when we moved out here, wanted to be a part of the agricultural economy. And I met with Max at MX Morningstar.
Yeah, they're great.
They're phenomenal.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other, growers and makers in the area, and started to think, okay, well, if we, and I remember one of the people were great at saying, oh, you got to talk to this person, you got to talk to that person. Billy Best was a person I met. I don't know if you've met her, but she said, yeah, well, there's this food hub idea. And I remembered having learned about that at the farm school. And I kind of just put some wind in my sails.
Sure.
And then when I went to Berkshire Grown was phenomenal. Kind of 2015, 16, 17, 18, really all along, and having their networking events. And that was one of them. And I remember Jeremy from Apollo was at that Red Lion Inn meeting, and there were a bunch of folks saying, yeah, this is, put the pieces together. And, and it meant getting refrigerated trucks, and it meant doing it in a professional way.
Right. And that's just, and that's a lot of footwork to do, but I think the amazing thing is we all find inspiration in one another. I mean, for you to be on that farm, what kind of connects me is farming. We had our 400-acre farm in Northern California that was founded by my great-grandfather, and it passed to my grandfather, and, we sold it. I want to say, my gosh, it's been a bit, maybe about 12 years ago or so now, 13 maybe. But, I think the power of food and getting that appreciation of being out on that field, and that's where, like, even at Canyon Ranch, when I would get those extras that would come in, and anybody that wanted to, we would go out to the farms and pick, and bring it back to the kitchen and build our menus. There's something very powerful in that, something very raw, because you can see how much that really affects the world around us. And how much farmers don't get. So for you to be able to take that and build it into something, and obviously, and that's how many years now you've been doing that?
This is our eighth year of operating.
Okay. Okay. And you've had some transitions along the way with that. I can kind of remember in the beginning, there was the opportunity to get like smaller packed items, and then it just kind of developed now into, what you would get, like you're getting, a 6x1 case or what have you, versus what I call the grocery grab of like, you can, if you have a small in or something or small volume, but yeah, no, what made you kind of transition into that? Cause did it have something to do with COVID and
it was after COVID. And just to speak to your previous point about sort of the power of having your hands on the food, it's why people garden to some degree. It's that feeling of self-sufficiency.
Right.
It's that so much of sort of what's happening in the last 50, 80 years has moved away from, and people wanting to feel that. And that was really motivating for me and powerful for me is the difference between just being able to know how to do it yourself and how to that you can do it. Yeah. And so that transition from individual, getting a couple heads of this or pounds of that was when we moved from, we had had a facility in Pittsfield and one over in Belchertown. And we combined them into one building in South Deerfield, where we are now. In 2021. And when we moved into that building as part of our licensing, they said, okay, you're not equipped in this building to do the handling of food. You can move boxes, but not, the individual units themselves, unless you have a 3-bay sink and this and that.
Ooh,
and we just don't have the facility set up at this point to do all of that.
Okay.
We definitely have some customers for whom it would be helpful, and we may shift back to that over time.
Yep.
But what we try to do in the meantime is just offer smaller pack sizes.
Okay.
So you get a 3-pound of lemons or 3 pounds of that kind of thing to kind of accommodate for that.
Right. Well, and I think the other special part is you're talking about reaching our farm system and looking at the very large ag system the complex ag system that we have. And industrial food system that we have here in the U.S. that has really just continued to take off. That's where as a chef, I feel like that, I want to be that person of change in my community with however I can affect it, and to be able to do that, I'm able to use, you guys as a resource of these products that I know that 100% of our farms in the New England entire region are not perfect, and we have our struggles. But I have to say, there's such a high percentage of integrity and commitment to sustainable farming and how they're dealing with their products. you thrive with that, as well, correct?
Absolutely. That's the whole thing is that people, as I started to go around and meet with people, starting with Max and Max at MX Morningstar, Person of Integrity, Caroline Pam at Kitchen Garden Farm in Sunderland, every single maker and grower that I was very fortunate to connect with were people that I thought, I want to work with this person. I want to get their product out into the world. And that's going to be better when I see it on the shelf in the grocery store or when I see it on a menu in a restaurant. That's making an improvement to what's around us. And we were very fortunate that so many people, it was almost every week, a different, farm or maker would pop up, and it would be people of integrity, people we wanted to work with who were doing great work and really cared about production on a more reasonable human scale than where things have gone over the last, 90 or 100 plus years.
A lot of those challenges. Well, and so the other thing with that, in the sense of integrity, you're also a part of Menus of Change. Is that with doing that with the CIA? Is that
we did? I can't remember exactly what the program was, but I've been involved with that a little bit. On a panel and something like that.
Yeah, well, because we had used them. We were a part of that because Scott Uline was, on the board with them and so on. So we would go down there every year and go to the summits and talk about, how we can, as a company take, a large bite out of that. And again, that's where, with Canyon Ranch, Mel was so stout and strong in his vision that, you need to be real all the way through to the core. And I think today people are becoming more knowledgeable, and they should be. I think that people are using that education to make wiser choices. I think that's where you being involved with that, it's really helped our area to flourish and really be an example of a region. So do you see yourself expanding, or are you kind of like in this happy medium of where you are?
We're trying to grow. We think that we can have a much bigger impact than we're having right now. And for us, the fun of that and the reason it's easy to get up and go to work every day is because success for us means selling more food from our farmers and makers. Yeah. And so if we succeed, that means our farmers and maker partners succeed.
Sure.
And there, to my sense, there is a really strong demand across the rest of the state, across the rest of New England for these kinds of foods. And there are certainly other businesses that are running in this direction too. Yeah. And that's great. We compete on that. That's a good problem to have.
Right.
But we want to keep growing and sell more of the foods that are being made and grown by our partners now, and add partners and try to expand our impact.
Well, and is that right? 90 and up on members of like farms and producers? Is that right?
Yeah,
that list is long.
I think we're at 105 or something like that right now. And doesn't mean we sell something from everybody every day, but over the course of the 12 months of the year,
you're rotating them in.
And we've been fortunate that those businesses are willing to work with us, and we learn from each of them, and over time we'll find more to continue to work with.
Hey, I'd like to take a moment just to share with you. I do have some affiliates that you can take advantage of. Go to chefmassey.com, my website. Click on my affiliates. Go down through there. You're going to see some companies like Vitamix, King Arthur Flour, Jasper Hill Farm, Zwilling, Wolf Fish, and Thrive Market. These guys are truly great companies. Take advantage of that. I also can get a hold of some promotions with some of these specific companies during this holiday season. So feel free to email me at james@chefmassey.com. I can look into more of those promotions with further detail to help you out. So thank you. And now back to the episode. Do you have advice as an entrepreneur, like what drives you and, what keeps you motivated? I mean, in this ever-changing world we're in.
I think I'm really fortunate that this particular, for this particular approach that we're taking is connects with me at a personal level. Mm-hmm. And so it's not a big lift from my personal life to my work life. Yeah. It's not a big change. Yeah. And so when I think about how hard am I going to run today? Yeah. it's on behalf of the people we work with, and it's on behalf of the 23 people in our business who are phenomenal people who are working hard every day. And to try to, again, it's our success is their success kind of thing. And I think it's consistent with this model of, to some degree, stakeholder capitalism, where it's taking into account not just the bottom line, but the purpose of the business and the other stakeholders that are part of it. Your customers.
Right.
Are you getting what you want, chef?
Yeah.
Is the food that we're delivering to you working for you? Not just because otherwise you might go to somebody else, but is it working for you, for your restaurant, for your needs, whatever it is, or grocery store? And for the farms and makers that we work with, do you like working with us? Are we selling enough of your product? Do you want us to sell more? Do you want us to sell? What are your goals for this year? And how can we accomplish them together?
Yeah.
And all of that together is a wonderful challenge in my mind. There's a lot of complexity to it. And then ultimately it's simple. It's how are we trying to kind of build the regional food system?
Wow. Yeah. Well, and my thing is too, I guess it must have been hard starting out as well, because, you have large distributors or purveyors out there, that have their hands in our complex ag system, and they can negotiate pricing, and it's very aggressive, and they're able to do X, Y, and Z and get certain, cuts and breaks. Is it harder for you in your position with this and dealing with some of the smaller farms, and, they deal with their farmers markets and retail, and is it tighter window for you?
Yeah. The bigger purveyors have economies of scale that we don't have.
Right.
They could buy a tractor trailer load of X product, and because they're buying that much volume, they're paying a much lower rate than we are. On the flip side, what we have is a level of quality and a level of attention to service that I think it's harder as you scale up.
I agree. Yeah.
To have. So you have a national distributor who is doing $40 or $50 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Their attention to the quality of what they're doing and even to their staff it's harder for them to do that at that scale. And not to say that there aren't some that, might do an okay job at it, but at our scale, we have such everyday attention to and relationship building across all three parts: vendor, distributor, customer. It's a triangle. And we're not a wall in the middle. We're transparent in the middle. And we want all three parties to be talking to each other and valuing each other. Because there's a role for every party to play. It's not, it isn't, we shouldn't be putting up a black box in the middle.
Right. Exactly. Well, and that's a huge point. It's a great point for anybody, to take away from. Actually, I have a fun fact. So what's this about? Did I read about law school? You were a lawyer prior to? Can you kind of...
Sure. Yeah. So I went to law school, graduated 2004, and I was very fortunate. I was really interested in government and policy, and I went straight into Massachusetts government, worked in the state Senate for 4 years, and then was fortunate to join the Patrick administration for another 5 years after that, and ended up working for Governor Patrick in his legal office for the last 3 or 4 years of that.
Wow.
And that was a phenomenal experience. I felt very lucky to be doing that work and engaged by that. But at a certain moment, I realized that my window of opportunity to make a transition to something else and to step away from the desk was narrowing.
Yep.
And so I enrolled in that year-long agriculture program at the farm school. And made I have said recently I could have done a 2-week kind of program. I could have done a 3-week or 3-month internship to try to test it out. Yeah. But then there was this year-long thing. And I thought if I'm really going to learn whether this is for me, let's do a year leap. And I've been, kind of running with it ever since. And I feel really lucky that I met the folks there and got to do that year.
Wow, that's amazing. And so did you grow up in the Berkshires, and how did that's kind of interesting too.
I grew up outside of Springfield in Long Meadow.
Okay.
So Pioneer Valley, about an hour from here.
Yeah.
And the Berkshires was always kind of in my mind a rural, rustic, beautiful place, but I never had much experience with it. I ended up going to college at Williams College in Williamstown, so started to get some experience with the Berkshires up there in North County. Okay. And ultimately met a woman who's now my wife, who had also gone to school there, and we decided that we wanted to take a chance and move back here. And so we did that in 2015.
Yep.
And it was a real, kind of unknown to some degree. And it's been...
Wow, that's amazing. Okay. No, that's great. Yeah, I mean, so when you look at the future, I mean, I know you're happy with your model now. I mean, I think it'd be amazing if there was like Marty locals all over the United States in their own regions,
Yeah, no, so I think it's not a crazy idea. And I think there are, to some degree, there are businesses that are a very similar model where they're sourcing from the farms and food producers around them. And, we are getting to a point where we're getting our systems sort of dialed in enough where we can say, okay, let's try to replicate this somewhere else. And at the same time, it makes sense for us to kind of keep reaching with what we're doing geographically. Yeah, but I think that's a really nice vision that you're describing.
Well, and to me, that's why I love what you do and appreciate it so much because, even for me, I've been here 12 years, but like I'm from the West Coast. Part of my growing up time, I was down in Arizona. So, being in Tucson, you had Wilcox and you had some farms. You had some ranches, but that was the mid 90s. So, a lot of our product, I mean, even today in our country, a lot of our product comes from California, but, it was a much different world. So as I had gone along and then went to Cleveland and was chefing there and was able to see some more farms and more, like Fresh Point or some of these areas where you saw some regional produce coming in and then it just started to kind of grow. And then to come into, the Berkshires, it's just, it's like a Disneyland for chefs, and you provide that color palette of impact, so.
We're really, I think, where we are located here in the Berkshires, you have to the west, the Hudson Valley, to the east, the Pioneer Valley, and then up and down the Berkshires, better livestock land, right, and vegetable growing. And you can get a real mix from all three of those, all within a reasonable drive. Is basically why I think it works in this area.
Yeah.
If you go to California or you go to Maryland or you go to Florida, you're going to have a different mix of what's available. Right. But we happen to have, I think, a really, a terrific mix here. And not to say, that people wouldn't appreciate it if the seasons, some of the growing pieces were longer, and who knows, with climate change, where that goes. But it is an incredible range of products and foods that are available right here from across those kind of 130 miles.
Right. Well, and I want to say too, because we have a variety of listeners that we're reaching. I know there's restaurateurs and chefs, and listening to this, obviously, go to martyslocal.com and, in this region and please take advantage of it. But how can people in the Berkshires be able to see your reach? I mean, because MX Morningstar, he has that, was that a new farm store?
Right.
He had done, so a lot of your product goes in there too, things like that, right?
That's for sure. There are so many really strong, and this was part of COVID to some degree.
Right.
These farm stores that I think people had been going to maybe on the margins of their shopping.
Sure.
All of a sudden became the central
place
to shop.
Right.
And those are anything from a, kind of 5x5 self-serve shack to a full-blown store.
Right.
That, has refrigeration, has freezers, that sort of thing. And those became much more popular, as everybody knows, during the pandemic, and have continued to be pretty strong. I would say certainly not at the level that it was at the real peak, but in a really positive way.
That's amazing.
Brought some new business opportunities for some of those.
You go into those small stands that they had, and now it's a much bigger store or selection where we were dealing with supply chain issues, and they were able to go in and get these products. And I think that they were wise about it. And, to be honest with you, we're keeping the money at home. Right. And that's where it belongs. It belongs in our regional system. COVID was a big piece to that, even like Taft Farms. I mean, to see them, just get, throttled with everybody, we're dealing with big box brands that are like, will it come in today? Won't it come in today? And all of a sudden you go into these farm stores and, because our area, we're right here. I mean, some of our farmers are dealing with, sourcing grain and some of their supply chain
packaging.
issues or packaging, right? Yeah. But we were able to, it's a good point. I think it's a good point to look at.
The shorter supply chain is a more durable supply chain. There's no question.
Right. For all of you out there, keep going on that. So, because it empowers our area and takes care of a lot of families. So any other thoughts as we kind of slow it down, wrapping up?
I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and the work that you're doing and the community of chefs here and on the retail side as well. I mean, there's such a commitment across not only the Pioneer Valley, the Berkshires, the Hudson Valley, all three of these areas. There's such a commitment to, and it comes from consumers, right, to a large degree, but it comes from the owners of these establishments as well, to supporting these types of businesses. And we're just trying to, kind of make it fluid in the middle and make it easy for everybody for the makers and growers to access those markets and for the people who want to cook with that food or sell it on their shelves to get it and professionalize it and make it simple.
That's the key. So, well, all right. Well, Nick, thank you for your time. Thank you for coming in. Jackson, thank you for your studio again over there. Mr. Awesome.
Thanks, Jackson. Thanks,
Take care, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, all right, everyone. That is a wrap. You can check us out if you like that. Subscribe. Also, the Instagram, Chef Massey. Let's keep it simple. ChefMassey.com. Have a good one. Bye for now.